Hi, my name's Andy Sykes. I'm an illustrator and animator, and I teach animation at universities here in the UK. Why not check out my website, hexjibber.com, where you can find animation and illustration by me, as well as more lessons in Flash and After Effects. Cheers! Hi, and welcome to my lesson on smears and multiples. Before I get started, let's check out a really good website. This is called animationsmears.tumblr.com, and you can see here is a kind of public blog where lots and lots of people post their favourite smears and multiples. So before I've actually explained what they are, you can see what they look like. So a multiple is where you have multiple drawings of the same object in one frame that creates this kind of smeary effect. Once film had got really established in the 1930s, animators started studying live action frame by frame. And when they did that, they were startled by the amount of transparent blurs in the live images. In order to make their movements more convincing, they started using stretched in-betweens. These are often referred to as smears and multiples. So let's take a look at how to do them. Here is a picture of a star. This is what it looks like originally. In the middle, I've just used the transform tool to stretch it horizontally. And here it is in its original shape again on the other side of the screen. So let's take a look at what that looks like if we put those frames together in sequence. So we've got our first keyframe there, lasting for 2 frames. We've got our smeared, stretched frame in the middle. That's just lasting for 1 frame. And then we've got our original shape on the other side of the screen for 2 keyframes. So let's play that through. That's what it looks like. It looks like our image is smearing across the screen. It's simulating the motion blur that you would see with a film camera. And our eye naturally interprets that as very fast motion because it's so used to seeing those motion blurs on screen. So let's take a look at an even more exaggerated example. So this is our first keyframe. This is our second. We've got that smear for 1 frame in the middle. Then we've got this frame, and then it moves slowly towards the edge. So our animation starts off slowly. Then it's got this very fast motion in the middle, and then it slows down again. So that looks like this. So because we've added a couple of extra keyframes, it just exaggerates that stretched, smeared frame in the middle and makes it look like it's speeding up and then slowing back down again. So let's take a look at an even more exaggerated example. So in the middle, it's exactly the same as it was before, except I've applied a blur to this star in the middle. Now, I've done that by making it into a movie clip symbol and applying a blur effect to it. See, we've got a blur filter, 123 pixels in the X direction and 5 in the Y. It's a horizontal blur because it's moving from left to right. So if you play that through, it looks like this. So it looks even faster because we've got that blur. We've only got the blur on our stretched keyframe. So there you go. Just by stretching that middle keyframe and applying a blur, we're getting this really cool effect. And it's simulating that motion blur that you would see in camera when you were watching a real film with live action actors in it. Let's take a look at a couple more examples. This is exactly the same as with the star, but we've got this face that I've drawn. You might recognize it from my lip sync tutorials. At the beginning, our face is looking this way, to the left, and you can see that these are all just drawing objects. If you don't know how to use drawing objects, make sure you check out my lesson on drawing objects in Flash. In the middle, we've got the face looking forwards, and I've just used the transform tool to stretch it horizontally. And in the last frame, we've got our face looking to the right, and it's back to its normal shape. Let's take a look at what that looks like animated. You can see that we've got that really cool stretch. Basically, our head is turning around from looking left to it's looking right. But we've got this stretched middle keyframe where it's looking forwards, but it's traveling so fast that it's stretching out. There we go. Let's look at a more exaggerated example. This is our first keyframe. In our second one, it's exactly the same size. It's not been stretched at all, but our eyes are moving a little bit more into the center, and it's moved to the right a little bit. Then we've got our super stretch keyframe, just like before. Then we've got this keyframe here, which is just moved slightly to the left, and the eyes are a bit closer to the center. So let's take a look at that. You can see that's made our animation a bit more sophisticated. It's making that turn of the head look really, really nice and kind of stretched out and smeared. Let's take a look at what that looks like with a blur in the middle, like so. So just like with the star in the middle, I've applied a blur by turning this face into a movie clip, and I've blurred it horizontally. So we get this really cool kind of whooshy feel to our animation. And really, we haven't done more than a couple of drawings using the most basic tools in Flash. So even if you say that you can't draw, I'm pretty sure you can use the free transform tool and you can convert something to a movie clip. If you don't know how to use these movie clip filters, make sure you check out my lesson on movie clip filters. So that's smears. Let's take a look at some examples from the Animators File Kit that show some multiples. You can see here we've got this duck's head, and in the middle keyframe, not only is it smeared and stretched, but there are multiple versions of this eye. When we play it through, we get this really cool effect where it looks like it's blurring as it moves across the screen. Let's have a look at this bloke here. This is also from the Animators File Kit. I've just traced over it. So you can see this is our original frame, and the eyes are stretching out there. So that's more of a smear than a multiple. And then as he moves back in the opposite direction, it smears again. Here's a hand smear. You can see that originally it's a normal shape. Then in the middle, it's all stretched out. And then at the end, it's back to a normal shape. There we go. Let's take a look at this hand slam. Again, this is from the Animators File Kit. This has some multiples in it. When I play it through, see this hand is slamming down on this wall. This is the first keyframe. As we move very quickly towards the wall, we get these multiple versions of the knuckles and a couple of multiple lines of the arm. Then we hit the surface. Then as we move back away from the wall, back to our original position, we have all these multiples again from of the knuckles and on the arm. And then we're back to our original position, like so. Here's a little example from me. I spent a lot of time watching Dragon Ball Z as a teenager, and what I've created here is a kind of teleporting instant transmission sort of effect. This combines smears and speed lines. So what I've done is I've just drawn a star. Then in the second keyframe, I've drawn some speed lines over the top. If you don't know how to create those, make sure you check out my speed lines tutorial. And they're on a different layer. They're on a speed lines layer. And as I move forward, what I've done is I've used the scribble effect in Illustrator to create this very scribbly version of my star. So if we jump into Illustrator, I can show you how that works. If I draw a star, like so, just bump up the stroke value. I can use the scribble effect, which is in Stylize, like so. I can tick the preview box and can just set it at about 90 degrees. And I can mess about with these different options here to make it look really kind of bizarre. So I put the spacing at about 3. I put the path overlap at 0 and the variation around about 77. Make sure that angle is 90. Click OK. And there you go. I'm getting that kind of interesting sketched out feel. It's breaking up the shape of my star. And you can just copy and paste that into Flash. And again, if you want a fill, you can apply that too. So if I wanted, I can make this red in the fill. Like so. And then you get an effect like that. So there we go. And I've applied different versions, different extremities of that effect. And then I've made it disappear. Then it comes back for 2 frames and then disappears again. So you get an effect like this. It's kind of old school 90s teleporty effect. There we go. So that's my instant transmission on my star using smears. So there you go. That's smears and multiples. Have a go yourself, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Hey, thanks for checking out this tutorial. Next up, why not take a look at my website, hexjibber.com, where you can find out more about my self-published books, the Hexjibber Colouring and Activity Book, and the Hexjibber Anti-Revision Book. They're both suitable for kids and adults alike, and are well worth checking out.